Welcome to Debbie Rose online training. Today we'll be learning how to cut a simple kaftan, an A-line dress. So I'll be needing my vertical measurements first. So from the tip of the fabric, you measure your shoulder to bust. Here I'll be using 10 inches. So you'll be adding half-inch seam allowance. That's 10.5. I said the reason for the 0.5 is so that you can sew the shoulders together by half. So 10.5 is the shoulder to bust. Shoulder to under bust is 14. You're going to add half-inch to that also. That's that. So you now get your shoulder to the knee measurement. That's the length of the dress is 40 inches. So shoulder to knee, 40 inches plus 1.5 inches seam allowance. So 40 inches plus 1.5 inch seam allowance. That's 41.5. So you're going to connect with your ruler like that. I want this design at the edge of my kaftan. So I'll be ending my measurement here. That's 40 plus 1.5 inch seam allowance. I'll be ending it here. And then I'll begin the measurement from the tip of the tape rule here. Before you start your measurement, you check your folding. You check your folding with the biggest part of the body. The biggest part of the body. So the hip of this dress is 42 inches. 42 divided by 4 will give you 10.5. So you're going to check to see if you have enough for the fold. So that's enough. Now I'll begin my measurement on the shoulder. The shoulder for this dress is 14. Let's use 15 this time. 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. The armhole measurement is 18. Divide 18 by 2, you get 9. So on that point, you also measure your shoulder measurement on the armhole there. You measure the 7.5 like this, and so you connect the points together. Draw that out. So now at the angle 90, remember you're going to be putting 1 inch there. So you use your French a curve. Like that. If you have a bigger curve, French curve, you can use that. Sorry about that. Okay. So now on the bust is 40 inches. Remember that this dress is not a fitted dress. So you'll be adding 2 inches to your circumference once you measure. So the bust is 40 inches divided by 2, that gives us 10. Now you add 2 inches for ease, 2 inches for ease, and then ½ inch for sewing. So that in all you have 2.5 inches added to the fold. You are not dividing the 2.5 inches by 4. Don't add it to the measurement before dividing, okay? What you do is you divide your measurement by 4. 40 divided by 4 is 10. Now you are adding the 2.5 for the ease at the side here. The under bust is 36 inches. So you divide 36 by 2 by 4, that is 9 inches. You mark your 9 inches and then you add 2.5 inches for the ease. So you're going to create your slant like this. So it's an A line. there is no need shaping our hip. So what do you bust straight down to the length in a slant. You're going to be slanting it like this. And then you cut this shape out. So I'm cutting the A-line dress now. Neckline here, so I'll measure. I'm using 7 inches here. I'm using 8 inches, so you remove 1 inch from this 8, it gives me 7. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. I'll mark that here. Then the length of my neck is 5 inches, so I'll be marking that here also. And then I'll be getting a straight line. You make a slant there. So for the scallop, you then draw, like this. Like this. And then like this. By the time I cut, you're going to see the shape. That's for my scallop. And so I'll be on the shoulder, on the armhole, sorry, you're going to measure 1 inch for your shoulder slant. 1 inch. So you'll be slanting from the edge of the neckline into the armhole like this. So you cut off the shoulder slant. So by the time you open up the kaftan, this is the design you have. This is the scallop neck. See? Scallop neck. So I'll be placing this on the back to cut the back bodice. Now this is the front bodice. We're placing it on the folded fabric to cut the back. So I'll be cutting out. I don't want my neckline for the back to be a scallop neck, so I'm just going to cut out the shape and then draft the neckline separately for the back. So you're going to cut the exact shape of the front on the back pattern, exact shape. For the neckline of the back, I'm just going to be having 1.5 inches depth. That's the length of the neck, 1.5 inches. So I'll connect that to the width of the front. Remember, the front and the back must be the same width for the neck, but it's the length that is different, but the width is the same thing. So I'll be cutting out that shape like this. So this is my back bodice and this is the front bodice. Our A-line dress will be having a facing at the neckline. There will be no lining, there will be facing. So you fold your fabric into 2 like this, and then you place each neckline on the pattern, on the piece, and you create the drawing. You draw out the neckline. So I've created my neckline on the facing, and then I'll just cut out an extension. So I've cut the facing for both the front and the back. Look at this. The facing is just to highlight the neckline and then to turn the edges. The width of the facing is dependent on you, but you don't have to make it too big. I use just 2.5 inches round here. You cut out the shape of the neckline and then you cut out a corresponding facing like this. And then for the front too, you can see the shape of the scallop neckline here. So you cut out a corresponding facing for your neckline. The width also depends on you. So that is how to cut the neckline and facing for the kaftan. So now I want to cut the sleeve for my A-line. So the measurement for the sleeve length is 10 inches. So from the edge of the sleeve, you measure 10 inches upward. And then we have 1.5 inches for the seam allowance. So you'll be sewing 1 inch here, and then you'll be sewing ½ inch to the shoulder, to the main bodice. Okay, so we have 1.5 inches seam allowance. So in total we have 11.5 at the length, 11.5. So for the circumference of the sleeve, I'm using 14 inches. So you mark 14 inches plus ½ inch seam allowance. 14 inches, that's divided by 2 because your fabric is on fold. You divide by 2, that is 7. So you mark 7 here, then you add ½ inch seam allowance. So you're just going to draw that part in a slant. You're not drawing it up straight, you're drawing it in a slant like this. So you can see my slant is stopping around 7 inches. So from this point, you can see 7 inches. From this point, you're going to write an S to meet the length. On the armhole, you write an S like this. You just write an S to meet the armhole here on the length. Okay, so I'll be cutting 2 of this for the second. I'm cutting 1 more for the other sleeve. So now I've successfully cut out my 2 sleeves. So this part is what enters into the basic bodice. So after sewing the shoulders together, we'll be joining the armhole of the sleeve to the armhole of the basic bodice like this. So by the time we sew, you're going to see the connection. Thanks for watching. So I'll be showing you how to sew the A-line dress now. My scallop neckline, as we've cut it before, and then this is the facing. You're just going to cut the same shape of the neckline, and then the width will be about 3 inches, 3 inches wide like that. So you gum on your paper stay. Remember I told you that the rough side of the stay is the gummy part. So you're going to place that on the wrong side of your fabric and iron it to it. This is the black color. Paper stay comes in black and white. So this is the black color. And then I'll place it against the neckline of my fabric. And then I'll be sewing ½ inch on that neckline. So when I do that, I will come back to class. Okay, now you've seen the line, the seam line, the ½ inch. Now to give my neckline some sort of firmness, I decided to put the paper stay on the fabric also. Okay, but then it's not necessary, it's just preference. Okay, just apply it to the facing alone. So then you're going to notch each corner like this with your scissors, and be careful not to cut into the seam line. Just notch, straight before it, like this, before it. Now I'll be sewing my facing to the back too, and then I'll show you how to turn the shoulders. I have successfully sewn the neckline of the back bodice, 1/2 inch, and then when you're done sewing, remember to notch. You also notch the curve so that by the time you turn the facing, it's going to lay properly. And so once you turn like this, just open up and then iron this seam. Iron it all through. Iron it. Open. Just open like this and press it directly before you turn over. So now I've sewn facing everything together. So you're going to hold the front piece to the center of the back piece. That's the center of the facing and the fabric. Then you turn this way. You make sure that the 4 are held together. That's the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. They are held together properly, and then you're going to sew 1/2 inch down. Make sure they are held together. You sew 1/2 inch. Okay. So now, once you've sewn, you can then cut off the corners here. You cut off the corners before the seam line. You cut off the corners. This way, when you turn, you would have smooth edge. There will be no bulge over there. So what you're going to do now is to join your sleeve to this point, to the armhole. Now to sew our sleeve, you first have to sew the sleeve circumference, secure the edge down. So I've folded the seam allowance. Then you're going to fold like this again. You fold in 1/2 inch at the top of the allowance, and then you top stitch this place down. Some people decide to leave this like this because it's the selvage part. It's the edge doesn't frail, so you can leave it like this and just top stitch down. But I prefer to have some firmness on my circumference, so I'll fold like this, and then I'm going to sew that all the way down to the edge like this. So my sleeve edges, my circumference edges are sewn already. Now you open up the bodice, the shoulder side, you open it up, and then you take one sleeve and you pin the center of the sleeve there to the shoulder like this, and then you pin it all the way into the armhole. You pin that there. Then I'll sew with 1/2 inch on both sides. So I'm sewing the sleeve into the armhole. So the sleeves are sewn already, like this. So now I'll show you how to cut the pockets for this. So for the pocket, you fold your fabric into 2 like this, and then this will be the opening of your pocket. The standard opening measurement is 7 inches plus 1 inch seam allowance. So you're going to measure from here down here. You measure 8 inches, okay, and then the depth of the pocket is 10 inches plus the seam allowance, 10 inches. Then you cut that out. So now you're going to put your hand this way, spread your hand. Now you can see the shape I've drawn. Sorry, I'm recording this video myself, so I couldn't show you how I drew it, but just spread your hand. You're going to get it. Spread your hand on the piece for the pocket, and then you draw that line around it. You draw this shape around it. It's doable. Okay, and so the way you spread your hand is going to tell you if the allowances inside will be enough when the customer, or when you put in your hand, by the time you finish sewing the dress. And so this way you have created some ease around the hand, so you're sure that this pocket is appropriate, the size is appropriate for your dress. So you cut out the shape, and then we'll attach it to the main bodice. So I've cut 4 pieces of this, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you come to your bodice here, and you're going to measure from the shoulder to the waist. Just get your shoulder to waist measurement and just mark it on the waist like this on both sides. Mark it on both sides. And then you pick one part of the pocket like this. Look at the position. Look at the position. And then you open up this. You open it up like this. So this pocket is for the right side here. You can see the position of the pocket. Your hand goes this way. So that's the position. So you're going to pin this right side to this right side of the bodice like this. You just take this and then you pin it down. You pin this down. I've pinned that down. I've pinned it. So you open like this. Then you take the opposite pocket like this, the opposite one, facing this way, and you pin it to this part of the bodice. You pin it like this. So on the other side too, you place the 2 pockets here against this bodice, and then you open up this flap, attach the pocket to this one, then the second one here, you attach it to this one like this. You're facing right side to right side like this. Now I'm going to sew 1/2 inch from here down. You sew the pockets stand to the bodice 1/2 inch. This one too, you sew 1/2 inch down. The same thing we do for the other side. You sew half. So now the pockets are already sewn. They are sewn like that. So you then you pin the front and the back together of the main bodice, and then you're going to mark 1 inch straight down, 1 inch. But when you get to the pocket side, you can see I came down by 1/2 inch here, and then I curved this space, and go 1/2 inch round the pockets, 1/2 inch round the pockets. Then at this corner you come out again to 1 inch, and come out again to 1 inch straight down. So I'll be sewing the 2 sides following this technique, 1 inch from the sleeve together. And when you get to the pocket, you curve in 1/2 inch round the pockets, and then you come out again at the edge of the pocket, the lower part, and you come out sewing 1 inch. So I'm going to put my stitches on that. So I've sewn in the allowance now, 1 inch allowance, and then 1/2 inch into the pockets. So once you're done with that, then you top stitch the hem line like this. You top stitch round the hem line, and then your dress is ready. So our A-line dress with pocket is ready. You can see the pocket here. It's right here. Pocket is right here. Sorry. And we have the second pocket here too. So that's the opening of the pocket. So you can do hemming stitches to hold down your facing to the main block. You can do hemming stitches. Thanks for watching the tutorials today.